with Renee.
Yo. We wait all week and all day for more. Saturdays with Renee.
Yes. What's up, world? Welcome to episode 56 of Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee Johnston. I'm Jared Ball. Very excited for today. What's up, Renee?
I don't know if I've ever seen you more geeked up to do a show.
I cannot front. I've been waiting, and I've been, ever since I saw the preview of that last episode of Brokish, which, by the way, folks, is already linked in the show description. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't even care if you stopped right now and went and watched that and came back.
And then come back.
Yeah, I'm not even mad.
Listen, we're gonna spoil it all.
Oh, it's gonna get
spoil it all.
But what I admit I'm excited about is that I do intend for this to be a piling on. I want this to be a reverberating echo chamber. I think we do need to take that Brokish document and magnify it in all of our spaces as much as possible, because I think it's a remarkable.
You know me and my spreadsheets, because just
and you, I mean, yeah. So to the folks who are joining us live, welcome. Good to see you all. Peace and welcome. Please do like, share, subscribe, put this in your socials, tag us, tag Renee, tag me, tag Black Liberation Media, so that we can see that you out there and spread the word. Please do support the Patreon, where you would have seen the episode of Brokish as a preview.
Watching it early was everything. It just
and then I went and watched it again. I watched it again this morning.
Listen, so I'll explain my method. And Geechee's coming, y'all. He's actually doing real world work, and so he'll be on his way. But so when I watch these things, I make a note. I know you see in the background. So I make a note of like the timestamp and like a quick note of the thing that I was like thinking about when I noted it, right? And then I have to go back and watch it, because if we're doing clips, I got to make sure I have the right timestamps and the whole thing. But it's a whole process. I have notebooks filled with like notes and timestamps, and it's like my process is crazy. But if you add together all the times I had to watch it to make sure my timestamps were right, that I had what he said proper and all that stuff, I probably watched that bad boy like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I'm 3+ at this point for sure, and there will be more. I mean, because I keep saying it is just, as we'll demonstrate here, it
was a wild expression of someone who is wrong and strong in multiple ways.
It's a master class in all that's wrong with this discussion of race, class, economics in so many of the popular commercial spaces. I know it ends up in my classrooms. And I know that there was some stress involved. So I just want to again praise and appreciate what Erica and Amber did, because I don't think that this was their intent, but I do want to, just again, big them up for not only making sure that thing happened, but making it through. You know what I mean? I think for myself, for several of us, it would have been a challenge. So
yeah, I don't know, but I will say I sent Erica a note because the faces she was making while he was talking.
Oh, the faces, yeah.
And all I could think to myself was, her poker face is as bad as mine. She could not hold her expression at all. So I sent her a note like, it's good to know that we have common poker faces.
I don't gamble for a reason. And the only reason the reason I like playing spades so much is that you don't have to hide anything. You could talk trash the whole way through.
Craziness.
On it. But anyway, so I know I don't know how you want to
Well, while
but
we wait
one
for
if I can
Gucci,
just one more thing, one more praise for them because in watching it again and again, I just wanted to shout out Amber one more time for how she dealt with getting fired. That story, I almost forgot about that part that starts off the episode. That somebody gonna come on Teams and not even turn on their camera and just fire you.
but this is what they do. And she said it, and she was absolutely right. Like, this is why we always have to remember, like, we're just cogs in a wheel, right? Like, they will come and tell you you don't have a job anymore and not even think twice about it. And I have not gotten at all into my personal life because it's tricky, the whole conversation. I will promise you all, if I'm ever able to do so, you will be one of the first to know what exactly all went down. Jared knows, so he's on the inside. But
That's the only thing I'm slightly more excited to one day get into on here.
So, but yeah, I felt that. She told that story to be on vacation and be like, all right, I'm packing up to come back home, and to find out you don't have a job no more. But I do hope she's able to, find a new path, and that this gives her some space to do the
Well,
things.
Bryant at one point said she had the right mindset. So she'll be all right.
Because it's all mindset, outside of like living and eating and having a roof over your head.
Don't be poor. Don't be poor.
It's all
Don't
mindset.
be poor.
I mean, he said that, and I was like, okay, but how do you have a right mindset if you don't have enough money to eat, live, and have a roof over your head? Like, how does that? Okay, all right, bro, cool.
And just like the dude, I don't know if folks remember this. A few years ago, there was that documentary on Netflix, I think, called The Black Godfather, and it was about Clarence Avant, who was the music industry version of what Hope Bryant seems to be for financial literacy. The black dude that gets the white sponsorship from the music industry to bring black artists into white record labels and is praised. And in that documentary, he was saying kind of the same thing. Like in one breath, he's saying, you got to have this right mindset. But then in the next breath, he's talking about when he fell on hard times, one of his white billionaire friends bought him a house. So it's like, and Bryant was basically saying the same thing in the Brokish interview, that, when he's talking about the deal he made with Usher's dude, and if you go back into his histories we made today, like this has a lot to do with these success stories. Is there's it's like finding that right rich white guy that's going to fund you, and then you turn that into some I've overcome poverty in the hood and watching violence and all of this stuff, and it becomes I have the right mindset.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
If a white billionaire tells me, Jared, I'm gonna give you a couple $100 million, a couple 100,000 or whatever to get started.
Right.
We'll see. Maybe my mindset will, maybe
Listen.
Need a white billionaire.
I like to believe that I like to believe that I would be the person to say, like, I'm not doing that. But I also have to admit, being jobless right now and every month having a different conversation with my computer as I'm doing the budget for the month. Right? Like, I don't know.
Look, selling out and taking a check is one thing. And I don't mean, maybe this is my own guilt. But taking the check and then telling everyone else that they're the flaw is another level of it. Like we all do. I feel like that's my job now. I feel like I'm working for kind of a shady institution, but but we're all trying to do good work, but it's another level to go out and say you're poor because you don't have my mindset.
Right.
So that's at least how I justify what's not good.
But I mean, and look, we talk about it all the time. We're all living in the cogwheel and on the hamster wheel that is a capitalist system, right? So we all want to be able to eat food and, do the things. And, it's tricky because unfortunately, as we know, even more specifically here as Black Liberation Media, right? Like being the voice of, here's how we really should be thinking of things, and here are the things you're not looking at, and here's how we break the propaganda. This is not a money making effort, right? Like it's just not. So you hope that you have enough people that will support you and back you up, that you can continue to do it, because things have to get paid for, right? Like it was something he said during Brokish that I agreed with. Like, you know, you got to pay for the streaming, you got to pay for the computer, you got to pay, you know, like all those things. Like he wasn't wrong, but his whole, everything else was wrong. But that one little bit, but even a broken clock is right, like once a day, right? Twice a day.
So Gamandi, this is exactly my point. You're right. As I talked about in the Hammer and Hope video yesterday, the issue isn't that I or others haven't gotten grants from or awards from whoever, but and I got my student loans forgiven. My wife is well employed. My job, I got too much insurance. I got veterans insurance. Seriously, like I got more insurance than I need, but I can't share it, which was one thing. But my point in all that is, yeah, I make no bones about it. Relative to most, I'm okay.
Right.
But it would be different if I use that to say, why aren't you doing what I did, and how come you didn't get that award, and how come you didn't marry up with a spouse that makes more than you, and how come you didn't get sent to 2 wars so that you have permanent insurance? Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
So that's the difference I try to acknowledge here. So speaking of differences, acknowledge differences.
Yo.
What? Bro, why does your shirt say death? What is going on? Oh, okay.
So I thought it was about to be a shout out to the band Death, to the legendary black rock band. Death.
But we talking about ecocide. We all gonna die. We gonna get this
I know it's a death to the audio. It's a death to the good sounding mics.
Like you in a tin can, bro.
That's what it is. Is death. Is death to my sonic environment. Geechee took my sound and did this to it.
All right, so real quick before we get into the real good stuff, I do need to do a couple of quick shout outs. We got to talking. I had hoped to do it before Geechee got on, so we didn't have to hold the audience too tight. But I want to make sure I do this. So a couple of things. One, your girl went international.
International name.
Which I gotta say, I was pretty excited about. And shout out to Erica, because it was her who did the connection. She was actually asked to do the show. And she didn't, she felt like it wasn't something she would be super confident. Now, I don't want to say confident because she knows a whole lot of stuff, but she wasn't comfortable doing it. So she suggested me. And so they reached out and we did the conversation. And so your girl is on the Make It Plain podcast, which is actually out of the UK. And we had a really good conversation about Kamala Harris and the elections and Trump and all these things. For those of you who complain consistently that I laugh too much, this is not the podcast for you, because I have my boy cracking up. He thought I was hilarious.
Why are you still here? If that's an issue for you, why are you even still here?
Listen.
But so one question I have for you, because I unfortunately I didn't get the chance to listen to it yet. Did you all happen to talk on or off air about this conference he and his comrades are convening on the continent?
No, we did not. No.
So we got to get back in touch. We
need to bring him, but we
also
all
invited. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also, I want to bring him on for a Saturday, because this new person that was just named in the UK to head the Conservative Party, a Black woman, it seems to be a very interesting. There's a whole lot going on right now in the UK, and so I just feel like it would be a great conversation. So I'm going to reach out to you.
That's my guy, Kahindi, man. That's my guy.
Yeah.
So do you know about this conference?
I don't know about the conference. I just know him. But I don't know about this conference going on.
Well, he's all right. So we gotta.
All right, so we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But he remembered talking to you, Jared, because I asked him about it because we were also talking about the fact that his teaching, like his hours had to change when things happened with the African Studies program in the UK and all this. We had so much conversation off of the conversation. Like there was a lot. So I was like, all right, we gotta do
Let's
that.
go.
All right. The
Let's
second
go.
thing that I have to do is, yes, he is dope. Is, as you all know, I write for a local outlet called Public Square Amplified. I'm also the digital administrator, so I'm the person who's behind the website and stuff. But we are going into our big fundraising campaign that we do every year for the last 2 months of the year. It's called Newsmatch. We were awarded a match grant, so if we can raise that first $3,100, there are 2 people who will match it, so it will triple. Anyone who donates up to $3,100 will actually get $9,300. So if people are able and willing and would like to support Public Square Amplified, I would greatly appreciate it. But all the monies goes, it's a nonprofit newsroom and it's a local newsroom, and all the money will go to support that effort. So I wanted to make sure I did that quick shout out for folks.
And they got my man Todd in the
because Todd taught the class.
So you can't front on any group
Todd
that puts Todd in the graphic.
So those are my two shout outs. That would be really awesome if we can get some folks to donate. I would greatly appreciate it.
Let's do that. And as we get going here, I will put those links in the show description as well.
Cool.
All right.
So how we buzzing? Is that
that's not me?
What's going
that's
on
Geechee.
With you today, Geechee?
Listen, man. I just got back from a meeting. Everybody calling me. My bad. Shit rough, man. Shit rough in these streets.
It is. So where should we start?
Well, I see some stuff in here. You got stuff from Greg Carr and Gerald Horn on WPFW. Are we doing that too? Or
was that old? I think that was old. Was that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. This is on. I'm looking at the run sheet. You not looking at the run sheet?
No, the tab. I thought that was the old tab. There was Carr versus.
Look at you. You looking at the wrong tab, Geechee. You got to look at upcoming show. Upcoming show.
I looked at both. Was what I'm saying. My bad. I can't find peace. You're right. They just come. God damn.
All right, so maybe we should just start with Brokish, and then that way we have all the time we need for that, and then we can do anything else after that's done if we have time. What y'all think?
It's fine with me, and it's fine with me. And we can always do extra for Patreon or whatever. So I'm good. True. Whatever you want to do.
True.
So go ahead.
He kept saying you ladies are too smart to be asking these dumbass questions.
He's sure. Yeah, there were more backhanded compliments in that conversation than I have ever seen. It was wild. He was wildly inappropriate. Wild. And he was talking to, I guess he just didn't know, because he was talking to Erica and saying things like, you're in grad school, you're getting your degree. And I guess he doesn't know that she's already an attorney.
He didn't know anything about who he was talking to.
He had no idea who he was talking to. None. And then I love that Erica checked him at the end, because he was like, I don't know why y'all brought me on here. She was like, your people called me.
Your people called me.
We ain't call you.
And she should have finished. I thought she should have. That's the only mistake I think she made. She was being too nice. She should have finished the sentence. Your people called me because our podcast was listed in the top 5 Black financial podcasts by whoever magazine. That's probably how your PR people knew to reach out to me. That's what it, because they were listed right up there under Earn Your Leisure. So I know that's how it got started on their end, and whoever the PR people are they were just going, they weren't doing their research, and they just went and found Brokish and said, this sounds cute. It's 2 women on here who they probably referred to as girls. It says 2 girls on here. Send him on there, and he'll be fine. So he sat up there all relaxed with his gamer chair in the background. I was so irritated by that for some reason. The gamer chair in the background that he was trying to front like he was sitting in for some economic analysis. Man, you playing Fortnite. Stop fronting like you reading graphs and charts.
Right.
Because nothing he said suggested he understands anything about finance.
Not only that, he was like flat out wrong about stuff, like just straight up.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, but like common sense, don't you know how to use Google stuff? Like what?
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't even like a good capitalist. He wasn't like he wasn't even up there like, you know, hitting them with the numbers and the investments and it was just serious. It was just unserious whackness.
Listen,
empty rhetoric. Go ahead.
Most people who listen to him is all you got to do is people. All you got to do is, and that's the type of people listen to him. But he kept contradicting themselves by talking about, you know, how unsmart people are. But then he's selling classes to the unsmart people to get them on game. So you actually need people to be unsmart. Like you need people to not know what the hell they're doing. So he complaining about it in one sense, but also selling it to them in the next sense. So.
Right. And
so
he'll say, well, all our classes are free. Everything's free. Okay.
I'll stop here and then we can go into the specifics, but he bookends it perfectly by saying at the beginning of the interview, he says, financial literacy is the civil rights issue of this generation. And then at the end of the interview, when they're talking about changing the economy, he says, well, if you want to change the economy, be a civil rights leader.
Yeah. And a politician.
Civil rights leader.
I'm a politician.
Sure. Yeah. It's like you, and then dropping Andy Young's name to try to give that credibility. It was terrible.
It was
terrible. All right. Terrible. Yeah. But
all right. So wait, how should we start?
You all have, like, I have are my notes. I have a sort of time-stamped array of notes. Okay. So, but nothing, you know. So, I mean, I don't know how you all would want to do it. It's up to you.
Do you also have time-stamped notes, Geechee?
I had the with Geechee notes on the run sheet right now.
All right. So, okay, you know what we can start? Let's start with his origin story, because I am very, very curious about how many times he's told this origin story, and if anyone has ever taken the time to actually research his origin story to determine whether or not his origin story makes sense. Because as an educator who has worked in schools for 20-something years, well, you know, prior to this year, when he said he was 9 and he went to his home economics class, I was like, what 9-year-old is taking a home economics class? That doesn't they don't do that in elementary school.
Cat Williams reading all the books.
What is he talking about?
Well, how old are you in 6th grade? Because we used to have home ec in middle school, which for me started in 6th grade.
Right. So 6th grade, you are
13, 12, 13, 14.
11,
already, right?
12, right? 11, 12.
Because I graduated, 9th grade, I remember I was 15. So, right. so 12, somewhere around 12 to 13.
12, 13, right? But 9 years old, you were likely in either the 4th or 5th grade.
Right.
Right. Like what school district is doing home economic classes in 4th and 5th grade? Now, if he had said we had like a career day and this dude came in a tie, then that would have made more sense. But he went into this whole thing about how he went to his home economics class and they don't even teach those anymore and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and then Bank of America. And I was like,
So you saying already we have our first?
Right. You did it.
And I got the mini one too.
So, because y'all know how I do, I looked it up and I went back and I tried my best to find and determine whether or not home economics was actually a thing that was done in elementary schools in California in the mid 1970s, because he was born in 66. So we would be talking about 75 if he was 9 years old. So so I did a little look.
So I can't open this LA Times because I don't have the subscription.
I don't have a subscription either. That's weird. Okay. Well, the quote is there because this is from that actual article. So I found an article in the LA Times that was written in 2010, and the article was talking about home economics in the state of California and what happened with home economics as a course in the state of California. And in the article, it says, in fact, in California, home ec is still called home ec. It's the only state in the nation that has kept the name. But whereas in the 60s and 70s, classes were composed entirely of girls and the curriculum was focused on traditional homemaking.
So we're assuming was a boy at that time and would not have been eligible. And so he got the gender, the year, and the age. So we
already know. So listen, I don't want to, because I could not find evidence that this home economics in elementary school existed. So I don't want to say, with any 100% certainty that he didn't have some version of home economics that his 4th or 5th grade teacher did, and she didn't bring in a banker, whatever. We're also not going to get into the fact that it was not Bank of America. In the 70s, it was Bank America. It did not actually become Bank of America until it got bought out in the 90s, but we're going to leave all of that alone. So his whole origin story is shaky at best. And so we have to question now if his initial origin story is shaky. Does he know anything?
Let's take a pause very quick, and I want to look at the face of Erica the whole time during this little nigga, stop lying, nigga. Hey, real quick, I'm sorry. So there's a song whenever he started telling his little gangster, I saw somebody got shot, and all I started thinking about that song, Corbin got shot and Mozzie got shot and something got dropped. Y'all don't know about it, y'all too old. But I was like, this dude is literally trying to say he was a gangster or he was around some gangster shit and he made it out with a bunch of money. But I'm sorry, Renee, go ahead.
No, but I mean, the whole thing is just wild.
But we've been hearing that forever. That's been part of that. Is you all now, you too young to remember this. Years ago, there was an NBA did a cutaway story on NBC about Penny Hardaway when he was just becoming popular and famous. And they went and did this whole thing about how he came from the hood in Memphis and there was gunfire, bullets flying. And he had to, in real time, go on TV and say, that's not what happened. That's not how, I didn't grow up like that. So like they love that story when you can tell white folks, oh my God, I was ducking bullets and everybody was dying in my neighborhood, and they love that. That's why that Precious movie got made. They love that stuff. And then they could come in there with the we'll give them some money and some financial and clean them up. It's so crazy. Yeah. So I'm like, whenever I start hearing people say that as part of their argument, like this is not. Now I know that they were asking for his background, but he was trying to give that, like, this is how I know I'm right to tell you we can do this.
Right. And the reason this origin story, understanding that there's a high chance that this origin story is just bullshit, right? The reason that it's important is because this is his sell for why he knows what he's doing, right? Because he started out poor. And he grew up, he was in Compton and and this one opportunity, right? Like, look at how it tracks with what he does now, right? This one opportunity to get financial literacy from a person who knows changed his life. That's what he's selling now to people. I am your savior. I know what I'm doing, right? Like, it's wild.
If he's the savior, I say this.
Exactly. That's.
It's wild. It's wild. The whole thing is wild. But that to me, from jump, that was not something realistic is just crazy. So
So
my next thing is not until 20 minutes in. So,
Renee,
we can go in order.
did you get to see? I don't know what year this was. I guess I do. It was when Rodney King. But do you know during the Rodney King riots, like he was driving around, taking white bankers on a tour, showing them about different investments? Did you was you able to find that? That man
He
is
did. That is
crazy.
part of his claim. No,
Yes.
just to catch up
No.
to where we are. Yeah, he did. That was part of the claim that I think, didn't you and I go over this?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of his claim. Like we'll have to dig some of that out and refloat that back to the top around here, because we've this is not part one for some of us with Bryant. I'll say it that way. Like like he had that funky relationship with Roland Martin, where he was his economic and analyst, and they had the whole the financial breakdown with John Hope Bryant, and it was just a front again to get black investment into white banks and whatnot. But just to catch up with the timestamps, just quickly with some of what he immediately goes from his bio into talking about, you just need a good credit score and free enterprise and you'll be fine. You build wealth in your sleep, which oddly is as close to accurate as he maybe got in this whole thing, because wealth is simply put profits you earn from other people's labor. But that's sort of the point, that not everybody can do that. So, but whatever. Then, but to your point about the home X thing, it wasn't just that he was misguided about the age and gender and whatever the existence of these courses. He left the part that was important for him was that it was a over 6 feet tall Bank of America executive that came in there to teach them about financial literacy, and he couldn't wait to learn from this man who was so impressive to him, and said, "How did you make all this money legally?" And then with that basic entry into financial literacy, he was able to turn into the career. Bank of America, anyone coming into Black or any other school to teach financial literacy in a home ec class is not giving anything accurate about how the economy works. It's to create the John Hope Bryants. That's part of it. And this other work that I'm looking at getting another time, it's all about the propaganda. He is literally a product of the National Association of Manufacturers, who 100 years ago set out to do exactly this, to go into schools, to produce this mythology about the good of banking and corporations and private enterprise and free markets and capital. He's literally a product of that, carrying that empty message back to his own communities, and may not even be aware of it. But that was the only other part to that and that's in that first part where he does come with that line that financial literacy is the civil rights issue of this generation, which is
just utter nonsense. Just utter nonsense. And that whole origin story. And I think part of what's so sad for me is he obviously had a traumatic childhood, right? The story, if the story he told was also true, because now I gotta wonder about all of it. But if the story he told about what happened between his parents and what made the move and the whole thing, like, that's traumatic, right? And I wish he would have been a person who, instead of telling people that it's their fault that they're broke, had said, here's how I gamed the system and got where I got. I can't guarantee it's going to work for everybody, but here's how I game the system. And look, it worked for me to game the system in this way. And so, like, teach people how you gamed banks into giving you money so that you could build rent to own houses that you are now making money off of, right? Like, that is not because you understood anything about financial literacy. It's because you are a hustler, and a hustler in every way, shape, or form. Not that you work hard, hustler. A hustler in the sense that you know what to say and who to say it to in order to make them do the thing that you need them to do in that moment. Okay, like
exactly. But then the only problem, the reason he can't do that though, and this is what to me makes what he and others like him do worse, is that his business model is based on the hustle and hustling Black people.
All
So
right.
so
All
so
day.
he can't go to his audiences and say, this is how I did it, and but I need to continue to hustle you because otherwise I'm back where you are. He can't do that. So that's the
I'm waiting on the documentary, and maybe we have to make it about how big of a scam the financial literacy industry was. We saw Earn Your Leisure on stage 2 years ago crying about the white corporation not giving them money. Then they got the money from BlackRock and Microsoft and still was charging the people $300 and plus. People were financing tickets, charging vendors $1,500 to $3,000, putting them close to the bathroom. They have to sell their little products to the people who bought the tickets for $300, and the food trucks bought the tickets for $200. Like the money just funnels up like really fast. And at least they got camera tricks and celebrities. John Hope, well, I guess he got celebrities too. I mean, he got some older
That's
celebrities.
wild.
and rhetorical tricks, maybe not camera. He does have some rhetorical tricks.
He does.
So Erica's work is going to provide. She may have already done it, but once it comes out, her work is going to provide whoever makes that documentary with their whole blueprint, like the outline. Her work is really exposing this financial literacy nonsense, and even it's almost singular academic promoter. So that's what's, again, like, he comes with this arrogant Black message.
And he's just wrong. I can't believe how much stuff he was just wrong about. Like, just wrong.
It's white conservative academic talking points on top of it. That's the other thing. He doesn't, and I'm not even sure he's aware of that. He may not even be aware of that. I don't know.
I don't know. All right, so let's go to the first thing he was wrong about.
Well, the next thing. You already got the first thing.
Okay, fair enough. So
it's gonna be a lot.
He goes, it is a lot. It is a lot. This took me a long time, y'all, to pull all of this out and to make sure I had my evidence for stuff, but I wanted to make sure that I gave y'all all the information you needed. So 20 minutes in, right about 20 minutes in, he starts talking about free enterprise and how the job market is in here, and he calls it America consistently, which is one of those things about people that always irritates me, like this claiming of an entire continent for the United States, but we're gonna leave that alone. So he goes into this whole thing about America's free enterprise, and it starts at about 20. I have in my note, it says 20 minutes and 30 seconds, and he's talking about how 88% of the jobs in the U.S. are free enterprise. So are we going to pull the clips, or are we going to,
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I don't have it ready. I don't have I can pull the video up in a second, but I wasn't.
Let's hear him say it, if you don't mind pulling it up.
No, I don't mind. One thing though, I did, because Hiram reminded me about Archive today, so I did this is the article you were referencing a minute ago, the evolution of home economics in LA Times. So we got that just so people, that's where that quote came from before. Now I will quickly pull up the Brokish episode, and we'll go to, let's see, you said 2030, and we'll start it. Yeah, let's. And again, folks, the link's in the show description, so you can, if anybody doubts that first of all, you need to see this whole thing. But if you doubt that we're representing it accurately, all right, here we go.
Gets it from capitalists, or gets it from government. Where does the government gets it from? Right? Gets it from capitalism. 88% of all jobs in America are free enterprise jobs. 88%, 12% of government. And places where that's the opposite are in trouble. Most of that's the Middle East, and Africa, the third world countries, where most of the jobs are government jobs. And that's really,
right, you can stop it here.
So that's bananas. Yeah.
So 88% of the jobs here are free enterprise, 12% are for the government, and Africa, which he seems to think is one country, Okay. And the Middle East, which apparently he also thinks is one country.
That
And
man was taking
third
home
world,
economics. He was
third
taking home
world.
economics.
We don't know what third world he's exactly referencing. It's the exact opposite, and that's why people can't thrive there, right? So if you could pull up the link for me, Jared, that's next to this clip. So this is the actual like labor statistics information for government sector jobs in the US, and it also talks about what happens outside of the US. But the next screen shows that he's actually incorrect. His number's wrong, right? It's not 88%. It's actually more like 70%, which is a big differential, because you can't know that number, right? Because you have all these people who work for themselves. In addition to that, you can be working free, like you can be working free enterprise, which I'm sure like he thinks he's doing, and he's getting all this funding from the government. Right? So like, is it actually free enterprise if you're getting government grants, right? Like all of
Well,
those
that's what
things
I was
play
going to
into
ask
it.
about. You could say 70% are private for-profit businesses, but to what extent are those themselves dependent on government contracts? For I don't know what that percentage is, but a significant percentage has to be uh, private businesses that have contracts from the federal government. So
Right.
it's
Right.
um,
So if
but
you
the
go to
idea,
the
but
go
the
ahead.
other idea though, when I heard him say that, what I responded to in my mind was, first of all, he's wrong about sort of associating this number or the inverse with the failure of any or another form of economy. Uh, that's not why what I'm sure he meant to say socialist or communist economies have failed. That's not that they have an inverse of private to public funded business or employed businesses. But the question should be, or one question that I had was, well, what does this have to do with the distribution of the wealth created, and how does private ownership lend us or lead us in that direction? Which is, I know, not what he would have intended, but that's absolutely what I think he
Right.
was looking to
So on the
sidestep.
spreadsheet, I have two other links. One is yellow and one is green, and both are going to serve the same purpose. So it doesn't really matter to me which one you pick.
All right, I'll start with
But
the
he's
yellow.
also wrong about the public sector in these other parts of the country. Like he's just wrong. So there's a little chart there. If you scroll down a little bit more, this is how the public sector employment shares break out by region. And America actually has more public sector jobs than Africa does.
Oh, wow. So by his logic, the United States, or all of the, well, this says all of the Americas. I don't know if that's to what
Right.
extent,
But
but
I mean, but
by
we
his
just
logic, then we should be worse off than the
right.
continent, right?
Right. But his claim was it was 12%, which is what it says there, 12.4%. So he doesn't even, and this is my point, he doesn't even know what he's talking about, right? Like he literally does not know what he's talking about. He's just wrong and strong, right? And even he says the Middle East, and I did a lot of readings about this, and I'll share the spreadsheet, and I found some really actually interesting articles and things about certain Arab nations where there is it's like 70% of the jobs are public sector, but they're taking care of the people, right? Like there's a reason there's so many public sector jobs. So, and then this is just a map that shows the differential. And it's just like his claim of it's the opposite. Well, that would mean that the majority of the world, because let's be clear, if we're talking about Africa, the Middle East, and third world, quote unquote, third world countries, they should all be darker than they are per him. So he's just saying stuff, like literally just like saying, like, bleh, just saying stuff, and he's wrong. He's literally wrong. Okay. I mean, it's wild. So the next thing is not far off from here, which is the memo. Who got the memo?
Oh, right, right. The 23rd moment. Yeah, this
Who
is
got the memo?
so, and the memo being the who got the money memo on how to deal with
Yes.
money. And
Yes.
okay, so here we go.
Are the only three groups that never got the memo on money. Think about that for a minute. African Americans, not all blacks. Black Nigerians got the memo. Black Jamaicans got the memo. Black South Africans got the memo. They come here. Black Africans, Nigerians, Bohemians, whatever, come here. They got the memo on money and they have higher self-esteem. It's a whole nother conversation. Lower self-esteem is tied to slavery. And they, within 2 or 3 years, they're saving some money, they're buying a house, or they're starting an Uber business, whatever, and they're off and running on the American dream. But the three groups that were denied the 5 pillars of success, which is, so my last book is Financial Literacy for All, is #1 in business finance in the country, been #1 for 8 months. And my book before that, Up From Nothing.
All right, we can stop it because I can't even listen to him no more. So, like his ability to like drop in all the things that he's done. Whew. Anyhow, so
yeah, Obi, you didn't know you got the money memo, Obi.
Listen, and I took particular offense to this whole Jamaicans got the memo because people may not realize, but I am first generation. Both my parents were Jamaican. All my aunts and uncles were Jamaicans who came to the U.S. and married Jamaicans. Like I have a whole family full of Jamaicans, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that this is not factual, right? Like there is no memo. Right? Let's just be super clear. There is no memo. That is nonsensical, like literally nonsensical. So what I did, go ahead. You had something, Geechee?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you know and I'm thinking about this, but at one point he called them emotional. He was like, "Oh, y'all just making an emotional response." And then I think about like the emotional appeal he attempts to have when he tells his story, when he says like, you know, I saw my father and my mother fight at 5. I saw my first murder at 7. My best friend was murdered at 9. I succeeded in my first business at 10 years old. Was homeless for 18. Like he's literally pulling on emotional strings of people, and nobody's no longer listening to whatever the fuck he's saying. And so all these facts is like he don't have to be correct on none of it because all somebody saw was trauma, success, and it's like he doesn't bank on somebody doing such. But I also think he felt like he knew Erica them either did that to him and they know they could expose him. So that's why he was antagonistic at the first time and trying to paint them with all these compliments and, oh, you guys are smart and all this other shit. But like the guy is a con artist, man. I mean,
well, my memo stopped halfway through, so I don't know what the rest of it says.
So since he went into this whole thing, I decided I was going to pull up some information about like the actual numbers, right? Because they actually track these things, right? They actually look at when people come into the country, like how do they fare in comparison to everyone else, right? And so there's an article in here on the sheet by the migration policy, right? No, it's the migration, the migration policy org. I just highlighted it yellow. So that article actually looks into, you know, how are Caribbean immigrants faring in the United States? And funny enough, it does specify those of Jamaican descent because it just so happens that that's one of the islands where a majority of immigrants are coming from, right? And we're not going to talk about the real illegal, the madness that is happening on the island of Jamaica due to the actions of the United States government. That's a whole other thing, right? But if you scroll down on this memo, it takes you to the information about how people are actually faring. So there's a whole section in here that is about whether or not they're doing well economically. And it talks about whether or not this is something that's happening. And in this income and poverty section, it says, on average, household incomes of Caribbean immigrants were lower, with a median income of $52,000 compared to $64,000 for all other immigrant households and $66,000 for U.S.-born households, right? It talks about Trinidad and Tobago being a little higher, Jamaica being at 62, 15% of Caribbean immigrants live in poverty. Like, I mean, all these things. And I thought to myself, well, that's funny. Did they just not get the memo that like, did they just miss the memo? It's a little further down.
Well, because he just was breaking out that one chart he has about the average incomes of people by ethnic group.
Right.
And was
Which,
showing,
by the way,
yeah.
he claims is on his Instagram, and I couldn't find. So I don't even know. Like, I looked all through his Instagram. I saw no list of
Yeah.
incomes.
He left out was the part that Erica was trying to challenge him on, in that he cuts her off from being able to do so, where she's trying to say to him, well, that's because of the way that they're entering the country.
Ooh, and we got a whole thing on that, Jared. Don't be skipping around.
No, my bad. Go ahead. I'm my bad. So yeah.
So I think it's in here. It's in there. It's down towards the bottom when they start talking about, and it's headed I think income and poverty.
Yeah, I saw that part.
Just,
yeah, it's right here.
You know, but it's just absurd. Like, you know, take a second and read something, brother. You know what I mean? Like, what are we even talking about right now when we go into these absurdities where you just start throwing stuff out? And I think he's so used to just talking and no one actually going back to look at whether or not what he's saying is logical. Like, I think he just assumes that people are just going to take his word on it. And he goes into a lot about Nigerians and they're the smart ones, and Nigerians. And, you know, I found an article from African Mind where it says that the whole thing is a lie. Like, it's a misconception, this idea that Nigerians are doing so much better in the US.
Well, I just wanted to highlight what you said here about this one first, that 15% of all Caribbean immigrants were living in poverty, which is already ridiculously defined as a family of four earning $25,000, which is, I mean, so if you're making $26,000 with a family of four, you're technically not in poverty, which is just ridiculous.
Which is absurd.
But 15% compared to 14% of all immigrants and 12% of the U.S. So what he's saying is entirely wrong. That to your point, that Caribbean immigrants are more likely to live in poverty than the average U.S. citizen, even with those ridiculous statistics. And then now I will get to your portrait of Nigerian Americans, which shows them, according to poverty rates, being better off than Black Americans, but worse off than basically everybody else.
No, it's not. They're under Black Americans. Look at the poverty. Like, better off.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're worse off than everybody else except us. So what he's saying is suggesting that Nigerians come here and are just chilling, and again refuse to engage Erica's attempt to raise the questions as to why all of this is. And as soon as she said colonialism, I thought he was gonna have a heart attack.
But he, I mean, if he claims that Black people in America are 70 to 80% clinically undiagnosed depressed, and his solution is financial literacy, more education,
get your credit score up.
Yeah, get your credit score up. You depressed? Get some of that stuff.
Remember, 20% of us are just bums. So 20% of us cannot be saved. So
that's 100. That's 100. So 80% depressed and 20%.
Oh, right.
is bums.
Right.
We done, bro.
It's crazy. And then he also goes on a whole thing about South Africans. And what I found very interesting when I did the research about South Africa and the immigration rate, what I found was that the majority of people who migrated here from South Africa are white.
Stop playing.
Yes. Listen,
so Elon Musk gets to come over here and claim to be an African immigrant?
Right. And so this article from South Africa Good News, which talks about expats and how they rose to American society, says Besides South African immigration to the U.S. has been an overwhelmingly white phenomenon. According to the Migration Policy Institute in Washington, D.C., only 14% of South African immigrants, around 11,000, are Black. So,
So 80, wait a minute. 86% of the South Africans that come here are white. Yo.
So, when he whips out this whole thing about South Africa and they're doing so much better, like, did you even take a second to look at how that breaks out? Probably not. Did he expect somebody else to do it? Probably not. But
no, because I'm telling you, them 3 screens behind him were for Fortnite or whatever the hell other games he's playing. They're not for market research. He over there fronting with his little gamer chair. I couldn't believe that. I kept looking in the back like, what are you trying to convey with that thing? Who thinks you over there, as soon as you get off this podcast, you're going to be back there crunching the numbers on your screens? Get the hell out of here.
Craziness. So the next clip.
Yo, the African invasion. That's nuts.
So starting at about 2640, they're talking about home ownership. And I don't know if I timed it for when he answers Erica or when he asks her first and then she answers and he tries to check her, but his answer is just not actually that different than her answer. Because he says to her, let it play. Let me see if I timed it, which way I timed it, and then we can go back to it.
Probably like 48-50%.
No, it's 40 to 44%, but still, it's bad. So white America has an average home ownership of.
Hold on a second. We got to see that.
Do you know what percentage of Black people own a home?
Probably like 48-50%.
No, it's 40 to 44%, but still, it's bad. So white America has an average home ownership of 75%. So between the best number, 45%, and the average number for white, 75%, it's called a delta in financial terms. We call it a delta. The difference is 30%. There's your wealth inequality in the 21st century right there. Like, don't have any other conversation. Just that one, because the number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership.
Right,
but look at this again, just quickly before I take this off the screen. This is how you know who not to play cards with. You go take all of Erica's money. Amber is going to take all of your money. Just be clear. Just be clear. Just be careful, everybody. Next time brokers invite you to the poker table, know what you're getting into.
So he does. I mean, that part when he's like, no, 40. And I was like, you really tried to check her. And the differential was like, just not that serious. But not only that. And I'm not going to say like, why would Erica be reading into all of this stuff? But I remember when this conversation started on my Twitter feed because Kamala Harris was giving money to Black people to buy houses. And someone posted like, home ownership in for Black people is 44%. Y'all don't even know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And so I looked it up, and here's the major problem. He doesn't know what that home ownership rate actually represents. He is incorrect about it. He does not understand what that rate is, because that 44% is not the amount of Black people who own homes in America. That 44% is the percentage of Black people who live in the homes that they own. That's what home ownership is. It has nothing to do with whether or not you own a home.
Say that again.
So
the gulf between Black homeowners, white homeowners.
This article more points out like the same thing that he was talking about, which is what everyone talks about. The difference in the percentage in the home ownership rate percentage. That's what this number is when they say 44%, 72%, blah, 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 blah. That's what they're talking about. The article that I just highlighted yellow on our sheet actually explains what the home ownership rate is calculated. Like, how is it actually calculated? Because there is a big differential in what it means when you understand how it is calculated. So you have to go maybe like halfway down, and it spells out exactly how the rate is calculated. So see this, how is the home ownership rate calculated? The home ownership rate is the percentage of US homes that are owner occupied. The rate is calculated by dividing the number of homes that are owner occupied by the total number of occupied households. So essentially, the home ownership rate is the percentage of people who live in a home that they own. It is not the percentage of people who own a home. That is a big difference.
So if it's saying 44% of Black Americans own their own home,
own the home they live in.
Own the home they live in.
So what it does essentially is, let's say there's 100 people who own their homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 44% of those people live in that home that they own.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't tell you how many, like, it doesn't tell you that you're starting from 100 out of whatever. Right? Like, it's not a calculation of how many Black people own a home, because that starting number of 100 is already the amount of people who own homes. It doesn't tell you out of how many people. It's not 100 people out of this many own their homes, and then 44% of these people live in the home that they own. It's a false number, because it's not telling you how many people actually own a home. How do you know the starting number? How do you get to the number that you're dividing by?
I think I'm lost. I think I'm not getting it. So I'm just straight up.
Let me start over. No, it's fine.
Because
let me start over. The ownership rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it again.
Right. But when I read 44% of Black America owns their own homes, my assumption is that's a calculation of the amount of the percentage of whatever Black America is in this country that is reported to have taken out a mortgage. So I always assumed that the number was skewed because it doesn't reflect debt, value of the home, or any of that. So saying 44% of Black people own a home, to me, was just saying that's 44% of the population that has taken out a mortgage and has gone into some very amount of debt, buying homes of varied value.
Right. But the number is based on the number that you're dividing by is the total number of occupied households. Right? So it's the total number of occupied households. How do you know, where does that number come from? Based in comparison to how many Black people are in the country? Like, where do you get
so
that
when I read when they say that home ownership rate is calculated is the percentage of US homes that are owner occupied, I'm assuming that they're saying of all the homes in the country, or all the homes that Black people live in, 44% of them, 44% of those Black people own their own home. Because otherwise, what you're suggesting, when I hear what you're suggesting, could mean that a greater percentage of Black people actually own homes, but don't themselves live in those homes because they're renting them.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
So there's more. So you're saying more Black, the percentage should be more higher in terms of Black people who own their own home.
No.
Less,
because you don't know what the starting number is. There is nothing that and I searched for a number that says, here is how many Black people in the country who own a home.
At least one home.
At least own one home. That number does not, it is not. And look, I searched and searched and searched and searched. I cannot find it. All they tell you is the home ownership rate. The home ownership rate is simply a calculation of the people who live in a home that is owned by them. But how many people don't own homes? Where is that number of how many people don't own homes?
Home ownership rate is the percentage of U.S. homes that are owner occupied. So they're saying they take all the homes. So they're starting with all the homes available in the United States.
No, they're starting with
No, they're
all the
not.
homes that are owned in the United States. How many people do not own a home?
If they're starting with the percentage of all the owned properties in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're saying how many of what group live in those homes, actually own those same homes.
Right. But how do you know
How
how many
does
people don't own a home?
Because if you do, what I've always thought was happening was there was this census data about how many black people live in the country. And then they just
Mm-hmm.
go from that and say how many of those black people report a mortgage or having purchased a home or on a lease or not a lease, but an ownership. They own or paying property taxes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've said that would say that 44% of Black America owns a home
But they
that
don't.
they live in.
I mean, how many black people are in the country?
48 million.
million. Yeah,
48
whatever.
million.
48.
48 million.
Well, then I don't
So,
want you to John Hope me, get me.
No.
Jump down.
No,
No,
because
he
I
just
want
jumping down my neck over 8
48.
because
million.
I want to make sure that
Not
people
yet.
really understand what I'm saying, because this is, to me, this is a critical problem. And listen, if someone in the audience thinks I'm wrong, then listen, I am not an expert in money. I am just looking at this common sensically, right? If there are 48 million black people, we're basically saying that there's about 20 million black people in the country that own a home. Does that sound right to you? When we are the largest amount of unhoused people for the smallest population in the country? When we are the largest amount of renters for people, like common sensically, could almost half of the black people in this country own a home? No, 44% of black people who own a home live in the home they own. That's what the calculation is. It's not the baseline number is not the amount of black people in the country. The baseline number is the amount of black people in the country who own a home. That has nothing to do with calculating the amount of people who don't own a home. You're starting
The
with
rate
a
is
number that does
calculated.
not.
I'm just reading. The rate is calculated by dividing the number of homes that are owner occupied. They're explaining it right here. I just didn't read the next sentence. The rate is calculated by dividing the number of homes that are owner occupied by the total number of occupied households. So you're right. There's the total number of homes that are owner occupied is 100% where they start.
Right.
Out of that 100%, they're saying 44% of those owner occupied homes
are
of the total
lived in by
black people.
Right. By the owner who is a black person. But you're starting from a number that does not tell you, it does not calculate at all how many people actually own. Like, it doesn't tell you
It's not telling
what that baseline number is.
Right. Yeah, and that number is so high because I guess a large portion of black people don't have multiple
they live in the home they own.
Yeah,
they live in the home they own because
and then there's a percentage of them that's house poor. That is a whole nother conversation.
So that's saying that 56% of black people, 56% of
homes owned by black people
are
not lived in
by those black people.
Right. Who own them, correct.
So those they're renting it to somebody else or
Right.
I mean, maybe you should find your
and then do they become part of the 44% who live in a home that they own themselves while they rent another home to someone else?
And I'm also curious, like, how many people I know, black people I know, who own like those connected to building houses, right? And so you live on one side and your aunt lives on the other side, and your mother lives on the other side, and you live on the bottom floor and your mother lives on the top floor. Like, does that all calculate? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the whole thing, it's the whole thing is skewed, because the minute someone says home ownership, you assume that they are talking about people who own their home, like in general, people who own their homes. And I wouldn't have known the difference if I wasn't one of those people who was like, this don't make no sense. There's no, like, in my head, the first thought I had was like, almost half the Black people in this country own a home. That don't even make sense. That can't, like, how could that possibly be right? When we're the largest percentage of houseless people and we're the smallest percentage in the country. Like, that doesn't calculate in, like, commonsensical numbers. It didn't calculate. So I went on a mission to understand what the home ownership rate was. And I was like, well, this is why it don't make sense.
So it's not that 44% of Black people own a home. It's that 44% of occupied owner homes are Black.
Correct.
Also with the nuance, what Brittany says here, she wants to know the number of who own outright versus mortgages.
That too.
And
they're not going to tell you all that.
Also,
because then it's over.
According to your blockchain app, Jared, how many of these houses owned are blighted and fixer-uppers? Or
well, that was always the part I was sort of stuck on, is that even if that number seemed high to me, it could not be meant to convey the value of those homes. To Brittany's question, who's actually paid off a mortgage? Because you do not pay off, you are counted as a homeowner without paying off the mortgage.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the bank still owns the home, and they remind you of that shit every month.
Right.
It's my house.
Right.
Be late again.
You're renting.
So I want to skip down, because
rent to own.
This whole conversation about what he built, and I really hope we don't run out of time, but it's just so much.
You know, I'm down for part 2.
For 15, no, listen, me too. If we don't finish it here, we can finish it on Patreon.
We could do that too.
So making millionaires with the EITC. And this starts at 35.15. And I was so frustrated with this.
Is this where he said he could make anybody a millionaire?
He can make anybody a millionaire in 5 years, bruh. Anybody, he can make a millionaire in 5 years.
So he's saying, I'm Harriet, and I could have freed more of you, but your mindset.
Your mindset is wrong.
Was just my mother was just doing what she was doing in that time. This is this time, and it's the same situation. That I'll give you an example. I mean, I can make anybody a millionaire in 5 years. Anybody. So you're making you go to one of your relatives who makes $36,000 a year, $38,000 a year. They got 3 children. Every Black person has somebody in their family making $38,000 or $40,000 a year and has 2 or 3 kids. Just look around.
44% go to rent.
Here's financial literacy. And you say, this John Bryant guy said some mess to me. He said that you haven't got your EITC. I'll bet you, I don't know, $1,000 that if you ask 5 of your relatives that fit this profile, 4 of them will say, what are you talking about? What's that? EITC is free money. So if you work in America, this is Amber. This is the bamboozle quote from Malcolm X. We've been bamboozled. We've been tricked. We've been fooled. Right. So if you work in America, the federal government owes you a bonus for working. It's not a handout, called EITC, up to $65,000 a year. The sweet spot is the lower the income, the more the kids. So if you have $38,000 to $40,000 and 3 kids, government owes you $7,000 cash. Now, Amber, if you've never filed, and 1 out of 4 Americans who qualify for it never asked for it, $20 billion a year, read Black people, by the way, it's retroactive for 3 years. That's almost $20,000. So if you make $38,000 a year, and the government hands you $20,000, and by the way, there's local EITC, there's state EITC, there's down payment assistance programs. Let's just start with this EITC. I just gave you a down payment for your $100,000 condo or home in a progressive neighborhood. Now you don't want to go. I'm not talking about Manhattan. I'm not talking about LA. Money's already made there. Wealth's already been built there. That's just lifestyle. You need to go to a B or C city. I came to Atlanta 15 years ago where you could buy a house with a tree in the roof for $15,000 across from a home of $500,000. Now you can still buy a house with
now. I needed to get to that part with the tree in the house, because his whole, I mean, it's laughable how nonsensical his whole thing is. I mean, honestly. So you're gonna get your money from your EITC. And I shared these things because I want people to understand how these rates work, right? Like, could you get $7,000? Yeah, you could get seven, but there has to be at least 4 people in your household, and you're making $56,000 a year, right? So if you're like, consider making that much money, you're feeding 3 people, you're paying rent, you're doing all these things, like that $7,000 is likely just enough to get you through a month. You're going to use it for a down payment on a house? Like, what is he even talking about right now?
But if I see this correctly, also it's saying that you get up to 7,400.
Up to, right.
If you have, and if you're filing jointly as a married couple, which means you're up to 5 plus people in the house with a household income of $63,000. So even if you get 7,400, when you got 5 people on $63,000, and again, and then if he says you do that retroactively, so you get $25,000 for the 3-year retroactive.
Right.
Then
and
you're going to take all 5 people
as low as $11.
Atlanta.
It says as low as
it does go as 11. That's right. And so then he's saying, but you could take all 5 of you with that 25,000 and move down and buy your $100,000 condo or your $500,000 valued home
with
in
the
Atlanta.
tree in the roof. Uh-huh.
He's lying to everybody. That
like,
that's just ridiculous. And then because remember, he goes into to tell Erica, you don't know what you're talking about how race impacts valuation. So if 5 plus family members, Black families, start moving into these neighborhoods, that $500,000 house that he said was across the street is going to get revalued at $250,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also
just
want
because of the Blackness,
right? And I want people to remember that it is a tax credit,
earned
credit.
income tax.
So
credit,
if you do anything that you may start out and say like, okay, like this is my income, right? But this is all based on after you do all your other things that calculate out, right? So you can end up having to pay that, like it ends up being payment to the government, not exactly something that comes back to you. Like this, the whole premise is stupid. Not to mention, he says a condo, right? Does he know how much HOA fees are? Like you can buy a condo and your HOA fee is damn near half your mortgage.
And then how many bedrooms in that?
Right.
Because you got 5 people.
Right. You buying a house with a tree in it. How are you fixing that if you don't have no money? Where's this? Like, it's just nonsensical. It don't make a drop of sense what he's telling people. Not a drop. But he gonna tell you, he know this is how he's gonna make you a millionaire. This is how he's gonna do it. He's gonna tell you to make sure that you gave up,
You're also not buying. I just don't believe that either. You're not going to get. You're not that 20 to 25,000 as a down payment is not going to get you into the kind of housing that he's claiming it's going to get you into. Because this is the same promise with the lie that is Kamala Harris's promise.
So once you get in the house, then what? What you gonna do then?
Right. You still have to pay your bills. You still have to eat. You still like all the, it's just, and then
can you turn the lights on? You're going to need to set that tree on fire for heat.
Move to a BC city. What does that mean? You have to be able to pay for movers. You got stop. Just stop. I can't stand Black people. It don't make no sense, man. It don't make no sense. All right. So next up, the H-1B visa. Whew.
Oh yeah. Was there a timestamp that you wanted us to play on that? 5707. Yeah, because this is where
he goes after this twice. So we're gonna focus on.
No, this is his thing. He's used to talking to people that don't ever pay any attention or
We're recruiting people from low caste systems who come here from India. The people who.
That's not true. The number one immigrant in America is an African.
Can you pause it?
Africans. That's just.
I didn't.
Go ahead. What you said? Pause it, right?
I got to unmute myself. Yes, because he is wrong. Wrong. I mean, wrong. All right. So I have a migration policy so that we can see very clearly who the largest groups are that come. Like
you want to pull that up now?
Pull it up.
Oh, I thought you wanted. Okay,
no.
I thought we go back to the.
Pull it up. Because I need us all to be very, very clear. This is a quick Google search. This don't take long to find because they publish this information consistently so people understand what migration looks like coming into this country. He said largest.
Every time I hear this,
group was Africans. That's the largest group. Look there.
Is that Buckers? It looked like Buckers.
So Mexico is the largest group.
Oh, I thought he meant all these other countries were Africa.
No, because it's a I can't stand you.
Wait, what are European immigrants at?
No, they're part of the other countries. Because Mexico is first, and then India is second, and then China. Like like Africa's not even in the top 3. He's just
Africa's
wrong.
not. There's no African nation here. So where are the Nigerians at?
First of all, the fact that he's saying Africa like it's one place, it's just one place, right? It's absurd. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He literally is just talking. He don't know what he's talking about.
But all of them got the memo though, so they come over here and are chilling.
All got the memo. All got it. And then
he said he just said to her, "No, that's wrong. It's Africans."
It's Africans. Okay, so we can go back and play it some more.
John Hopeless.
Sorry, I needed to. I mean, he was so wrong and strong with that. No, you wrong.
I didn't finish telling you the rest. I'll go ahead and finish telling you. So in the case of Indians, which you brought up, right? That is the reason. So we are recruiting people who are very highly educated, people who are already of high castes when they come here. So we're not recruiting the poverty-stricken people of India in the same way. The Nigerian people and other Africans who, for the most part, right? If you're talking about people from West Africa, from Nigeria and Ghana, we are recruiting highly educated people already who, again, are already very affluent because they come here, and they are able to be affluent as a result of, for the most part, being colonial subjects of whether it was the case of Ghana and the UK. And so what happens is those colonial forces don't just exist in those nations. The system of colonialism is a worldwide system. And so we all live under it. And so that's how that plays out in terms of the incomes that you see from those people coming here. So it's not an accident that has happened. And because of the racial capitalist nature that we live under, because Black American people were subjugated to, of course, enslavement in this country, also Jim Crow, also mass incarceration. Because of those things, then we don't have those same levels of education and income that those other people have.
How do you explain me?
All right, you can stop it now.
Dumb. That's how you do it, dumb.
Or at least that's how we explain you. Just wrong.
Right. So, and someone mentions his body language, and he is mad disrespectful. Because what Erica is saying, and the reason I wanted it to play is because she is spot on. She is 100% correct in what she is explaining. And he is reacting to her as if she's speaking nonsense. And it's because he doesn't know. Like, the reality is he does not know. He does not understand how it works. And that's why the one bit of data he ever produces in the interview is to just pull up his little chart saying by ethnicity who earns the most money when they're here. But again, that number itself is debunked by what he was ignoring in Erica's comments.
So even if it is true that by breakdown of ethnicity, Indians or Nigerians or whoever do better than Black Americans, it's because those groups have started at a place above the average Black American. In fact, I've been seeing studies on this going back decades that have shown that the average so-called legal immigrant here is all of them from wherever they're coming start off at a better position than the average Black American. So again, to her point, they're not bringing in, it's not these hordes of impoverished people that come over here with 2 nickels in their pocket and become millionaires. And then when he talks about how do you explain me, the very fact that anyone would use that as an argument to explain the economy demonstrates what you've been showing all day here, that they don't know what they're talking about.
He has no clue what he's talking about. So let's go to 101, like hour 1 minute in, because he goes in hard on this H-1B visa thing, and I want to make sure that people understand that he does not know what he's talking about, and therefore he cannot be an expert because he does not know what he's talking about. Like literally does not know.
Right. The highest income, median household income in America is an Indian American with $152,000. So you say that's an H-1 visa. Okay, hold on. The second highest income is Filipino American. Let me help you out. There's no H-1 visas for Filipino Americans. There's no program at all to recruit or to help Filipino Americans. $106,000 average income. The third highest, Asian Americans, Chinese Americans, Russian Americans, European Americans.
We can stop it now because he's just... The best part is that list he's reading from was because he took a minute to go to his little chart to find it, right? So now if you could for me, the boundless, yes, the one you're on, the immigrant workers, the visa trends.
Oh, is that not the Filipino one?
No, sorry, hold on. I gotta remember to.
Oh, I see it. I got it.
All right. So if you scroll down just a little bit on this document, it talks about the denial rates, and then it talks about the country of origin. So it's a bar graph, and then it's a pie chart. Oh,
that was the bottom. So
there we go, the pie chart. That is the F1 visa, the H-1B visa program. Who comes here from where? India is the largest. Look who on there. Look who on there.
So Filipinos do have. Interesting.
And you know why Filipinos do have? Because the H-1B program has nothing to do with country of origin. Zero to do with country of origin. It has nothing to do with country of origin. H-1B visas are programs for employers in the United States to go out and hire people in other countries to do a job that they feel like they cannot get done by the people who are already here. That's what the H-1B visa is. So essentially, I own a country, and I think that I can get better workers if I go to this particular country because they have this school that specializes in this thing. So I submit my application for a certain number of H-1B visas for this thing, and then people apply to utilize those visas. It is not based on country of origin. He does not know what he is talking about. And when you look at those numbers, the fact that the Filipino is the top five. After he went into this whole thing, there's no specialized program.
What I also like is that it says here, this was signed by the first President Bush. And it's just another reminder. These are the Bracero program. I knew it. These are the programs. Okay, so I didn't know that about the visa, but I knew I would see Bracero program in here. So these are very right-wing, white, capitalist, conservative policies that are meant to expand the colonial reach of this empire whenever it has a labor shortage, to your point. So this whole thing is this idea that this is somehow some radical revolutionary process, that others are able to take advantage of because they have the right mindset and we don't, is nonsense. It is
Absolutely
specifically
nonsense.
the right-wing conservative white ruling elite who set these policies so that they can undercut the existing labor force in this country, who would probably want things like unionization or labor rights or all the things that this
Right.
country has fought for that they might not have in other. But this is, and then to your
And he's
point,
so
yes, top
dismissive,
5.
you
He's
know,
so wildly
like
wrong.
he's so
Yeah.
like when he says like, all right, India H1B, and he's so dismissive of it. And look how many people from India are coming here on this H1B visa. Like, that is a huge number of people. So
Right.
you're telling me that when you have all these people who are already educated and being actually brought in so that they can do a particular job, and these are mostly like IT jobs, like these things, that wouldn't skew the number that you're looking at? And the reason he does not know is because he literally did no work to understand the true economics of the policy, not to mention that he doesn't know what the policy for the visa is. He has no clue what he's talking about.
He's also comparing the condition of 48 million Americans, Black Americans, to 3,500 Filipinos. Is this meant to
Well, that's
reflect
just
a
the
greater
people,
degree?
that's just the number for how many have come in with the H-1B visa. I don't, I don't know how he
Right. Okay.
calculates
So
the
right.
minute.
What
I don't know
percentage
how
of
he
Filipino
calculates the
immigrants didn't come
medium.
from the?
Right.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know how he calculates it, but I don't know.
I still bet there's not 48 million Filipinos here, though.
No. And that exactly. So how much of an effect does that number of people who were brought here have on that medium income? We don't know.
And what percentage of
neither
those
does he.
Filipinos? And I'd also want to know what percentage of the Filipino numbers are impacted by military.
Right.
Because a lot of Filipinos end up in the military. I don't know what percentage, but it's a good number relative to their population. So, yeah, all right, whatever. Yeah, that's
all right. So now we're going to go to Hope and his organization as a whole. So if we can back up to 3450, because he goes into a whole thing about who he is and what he does.
Well, you just need to know. That's all. You just
Yeah,
know.
we need to know.
It also flow by understanding how the system works. And I came from Compton and South Central, and I had a high school education, a GED degree out of Santa Monica High School. So my mother was just my mother was just doing what she was doing in that time. This is this time, and it's the same situation. That I'll give you an example. I mean, I can make anybody millionaire in 5 years. Anybody. So you're making you go to one of your relatives who makes $36,000 a year, $38,000 a year. They got 3 children. Every Black
is this 34?
Somebody in their family making $38,000 or $40,000 a year.
That's 35. Where did you tell me to go? You didn't say
no 3450. 3450 before before this EITC thing.
Right at 3450. That's where I started it.
Did I hope I don't have the wrong time stamp. Damn it.
We can go to a commercial break of his book. How the poor can save capitalism. There's a quick passage I want to share while y'all get.
No, go ahead, share it. Let me.
Wait, that's an actual title of a book?
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
How the poor can save capitalism.
I don't remember.
How the poor can save capitalism. So he says, but financial literacy, access to credit and banking is not enough without opportunity. He went on to mention all of the social transformation people. And he says, in each of these places, the primary issue was race, the color line, and social strife. And the cure was almost always democracy and the right to vote, which in turn ultimately triggered real changes in public leadership, important laws, public policy governing fundamental issues of fairness and fair play. So again, he could acknowledge in his own words that what's going to happen is financial literacy ain't going to save you, but laws and public policy is the thing that's actually going to get you right. And so when he's on these cameras, he's be bullshitting because he can acknowledge, especially in his written word, that that financial literacy shit ain't it. So shout out to John Hopeless Bryant.
All right, my note is right though, so I don't know what. Can we try it again at 3440, Jared, and see if it plays right? Because you know what? Go to 34. Go to minute 34. Maybe that's what the problem is. I have the wrong. That was the end time, I think.
Let me cue it up since Jared is out. 34 what now?
34 minutes.
All right, 34 minutes.
And this may be a little early, but I think it will be okay.
My bad. I was hoping he was going to talk longer. You said 34 what?
34 minutes at 34 minutes.
All right, I got it. Here we go. I was like, man, I'm not going to make it. Now, here we go.
Not true. It's just not true. You can buy a house in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta now. You can go to the suburbs of Atlanta. I know I own 700 homes.
This is 34 minutes.
Not like
talking.
That's 34:14.
Huh. I wonder if could it be that what is wrong with this thing? Huh.
What's the part you're looking for?
It's where because he explains that he has a $4.5 billion flow and he's making $100 million a year. And I'm like, is my note just wrong? He did it based on, because he's trying to explain how he knows what he knows because he was so successful at it. But now I'm like, what in the world did I do? And I thought I was looking at it, but
I'm trying to search the transcript real quick, but I don't see.
It starts with him saying the guy you're talking to now. And on my thing, he says that at about 34 minutes and 14 seconds. But
well, that's exactly where we are on this
right.
Here.
And that's not what he's saying there. So that's why I'm like, what
and you're saying he says what now?
He says the guy that you're talking to is the guy who, and then he lists off all these things that he's doing successfully. So, and I want y'all to hear from his mouth so that you understand how arrogant he sounds, because we're about to look at his taxes. We're about to look at the 990 for his.
The guy you're talking to now, right here. So that's about to come up right here.
Okay, yeah. maybe I just panicked. Okay, all right, cool.
So the guy you're talking to now, I went from the bottom quartile of poverty, the top bottom quartile, to the bottom of the top 1% in one generation. I'm still a young guy. And I did it based on what I'm talking to you about, which is understanding how markets, money, and financial literacy. I'm not a professor or a motivational speaker, or my payroll is $1.5 million every 2 weeks. Payroll. I got to make $350,000 a day. Like, you can't play around with this. It's not like, oh, this is conceptually. I literally have built a $100 million a year enterprise and $4.5 billion of flow by understanding how the system works. And I came from Compton and South Central, and I had a high school education, a GED degree out of Santa Monica High School.
All
so
right,
my mother was
that's okay. So he goes into this whole thing about his payroll and what he does and blah, 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 blah. So I decided I was going to look up Operation Hope and look up to see what he's talking about. Now, what he does, in my opinion, is he is merging all of his businesses together, right? And talking about, now he's on a show to explain how his ability to help people, financial literacy, all these things. So Operation Hope is the thing that he really, like, that's his thing. This is his organization that helps people. This is how he gets people there. Operation Hope runs at about, I think the number was like maybe 50 million a year.
Well, it says the revenue here is 15.2 million. Right.
But his actual taxes, what they file on their 990, because this document is this breaks down a lot about the organization, but it's all based on what the organization says about the organization, right? So almost all of their notes and footnotes are all things from the Operation Hope website, which is all changed now, FYI. Like when I check those links, the information that had previously been there is no longer there. But he speaks about having, you know, he has to do this $3.5 million payroll, $1.5 million payroll, right? So I went into the Operation Hope to figure out like why is he spending so much money on payroll for a nonprofit? Well, part of the reason he's spending so much money on payroll for a nonprofit is because he pays himself almost $700,000 a year. Right. His highest paid, his like 14 highest paid employees for Operation Hope, this nonprofit that is supposed to be set up to pull people out of poverty, the combination, they are making over $3.5 million a year. Right? These are the people who he has sitting on his board. Now his board works for free, right? He's not paying his board, but his CEOs, his CFO, blah, 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 right? Like it's a lot of money that he has flowing through this nonprofit organization, and he's paying himself a chunk of it. So if he wants to brag about, you know, he has this payroll, his payroll is $3.5 million. He has to make $3.5 million every 2 weeks to make payroll. I mean, you can save yourself a whole lot of money by not paying yourself $600 and something thousand a year. And their revenue is,
this says the revenue is 37 million.
Right. And this is from Politico, I think. But I actually ProPublica. But I also in there, I mean, I actually pulled up the wholesale, like this is their actual 990. The one that's yellow, I'm just turning it yellow now, is the actual 990. So it's there, like the information is there. It's for the public viewing. Anybody can go in there and look this stuff up and see it very clearly. And it specifies like who's paying what. And, you know, I'm not, based on this, if you calculate out the total expenditures that Operation Hope spends over the course of the year. So this is the 2023 document. And if you go down to page, sorry, what page is this? Page 10 of the 990, it gives you the statement of functional expenses. And it breaks down, you know, what they're, yeah, and it's the page numbers. I don't know if you can go by, you have to go by the top corner. So that's page 9. Go down one more. So statement of functional expenses, right? Mm-hmm. So this shows you all of the things. So that $3,507,479, that's how much compensation his officers make together. If you go down 2 more rows, it says $21,498,000. That's other employee wages, et cetera, et cetera. You have your, you know, what you're spending on, you know, benefits, you have your payroll taxes, and then you have all these other things. You have your occupancy, your travel, your conferences, blah, 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 blah. So the total number at the bottom of column A, which, you know, is something I think like 39. If you scroll down a little bit, I'll be able to see it. It's, I think, like $39 million. That's 39,667, which includes all of the expenses. If you divide that number by 24, which is your biweekly payroll, you get to about $1.5 million. You get to about you get to that $1.5 million that he claims that he has to raise in payroll. But when he says it out loud, the way he says it, it gives you the impression that he's actually paying a lot of people a lot of money. Like that's what it sounds like, right? Like you have all these people who are relying on his payroll and he does all of these things. But when you really look at the number, ain't nobody making more money off that nonprofit than he is. No one.
But is this saying 39 million went out? Oh, this is total expenses.
Yes. But that includes paying his
right. because it says here program service expenses are 31 million. So what is program
What's the
service
other? What's the
expenses?
other 21 million?
column A is the total of column B, C, and D.
Right. So program and
Right.
service is
There's no way
30,
to know.
and then management and general expenses. Does that include salary in the 5.2 million?
We don't know.
And then
But that's my
funding,
point. Like,
fundraising.
it's also murky. Like, how do you know what's what?
Slow down. Account receivables. Wait, so the 21 million is his salary. The other.
No, the 21 million. So he has. I mean, and there is so much to this thing.
Other salaries and wages.
His other salaries and wages is 21. That's the total.
The
But
3
we don't know
million,
what that means. The 3.5
the
million
3.5 million is current officers, directors, trustees, and key employees.
And if you scroll up, the page above says very clearly how much he pays himself. It's like $600,000 a year. So, like, the whole thing.
He the boss, like
boss.
Air Doctor say. That's what Air Doctor
right.
Say.
So, but then what I was wanting also to know is, of the 31 million that are the program services and expenses, what are they doing with that 31.6 million? What does that do?
No. Who knows? I just want people to understand that when he's a charlatan. He is like a snake oil salesman. And he is just telling you all these things because he is trying to get people who don't take the time to really look at the organization to believe that he is doing something righteous. There is nothing righteous about what he is doing. He is full of shit. He doesn't even understand half of the policies he talks about. He has taken no time to Google anything to get any understanding of the things that he proclaims to know. And he is making money, literally making money off of like selling this lie to people. And he don't even understand basic policy.
All those library books, or those books, I'm sorry, in his library, I was wondering who's on his shelf. Are any of y'all surprised of these people like Winston Churchill, Walt Disney? These are people he's telling the other people to go read. Steve Jobs, Abraham Lincoln.
No, he quoted one of them. He claimed it as his own when he said something like, capitalism and democracy are the best, are terrible, but they're the best thing. I mean, he was quoting Churchill. I think Churchill's the one that said that. So I'm not surprised that he's quoting imperialists and warmongers and Zionists. And because remember, I keep doing that to poor Ward. Winston Churchill said, we got to get these internationalist Jews out of Europe because they keep spreading communism and labor unions. And so let's go ahead and support this Israel thing and get some British Empire over there. So, but that's who he's quoting. Yeah. Without attribution, by the way, because he claimed it as his own on the thing. So that's, just another little.
So just one more thing, because I want people to understand how easy it is to sell a lie, because you're really only talking about things in the way that you want people to understand it. So this statement is something that I've seen multiple times over now. How Operation Hope and Fulton Bank garnished, they got almost $1 billion in loans to people through its partnership with Operation Hope. So this is the big thing that he's selling, right? He's helping people with financial literacies, and through his financial literacy, he's allowing people to buy homes and to better their situations, right? So this is an article that talks about how Operation Hope gave this recognition to Fulton Bank. And you'll see that it says that Fulton Bank has helped facilitate more than 968 million in loans to more than 5,700 home buyers under the Closing Cost Assistance Program. Okay. Everybody read that, right? I'm not the only one. Everyone read that, right?
No, this is, yep.
Okay. So let's talk about how the math doesn't math. Okay. So if you could for me, go to the other article that's in there. So it's It's 5,700 people, right? 5,700 people. And so the other thing explains what their programs are. This is what the other link is, the income-based programs through Fulton Bank. So they highlight their closing cost assistance program because it is with Operation Hope. It's down maybe like the fourth thing on the list, maybe. Not the secured one. One more. This one, closing cost assistance program, CCAP, right? Through the mortgage company has partnered with Operation Hope to establish a closing cost program to make home ownership more accessible. Y'all look at these numbers, right? So you have here, you know, it's in conjunction with mortgages. They have to be a primary house, right? They can receive up to $2,500, right? They may also receive $1,000 towards down payments, right? And then they can also receive an additional $1,500, right? Everybody sees those, right? So the total of that, unless my math is wrong, is $5,000. That's if you max out and you qualify for all of these things, correct? Now, they just told you on the other page that they're at $968 million for 5,700 people. How that math? Tell me how that math.
So 5,700 times 5,000 is not 90 million?
968 million.
968?
Almost $1 billion is what they're claiming.
A billy.
How is that mathing when this is the program?
Because they literate, man. They're financially literate. Mm-hmm.
And I went searching, and everywhere that I look, even when he has some like online program for renters and everywhere I look, it's the same paragraph that was in the other link that talks about there's almost $1 billion. But you can't find anywhere where they calculate out this $1 billion.
Just so everybody can see, 5,700 times 5,000. What's the math on that? How many zeros is that?
That's $28 million.
So
$28.5 million.
So where the other 70 million? Where's the other 900? What did you just say?
It's 968 million.
So where's the other 930 million at?
Look, your guess is as good as mine. Because I did the math and I was like, okay, so that's like $100 and something thousand per person. And then I look at the program and I'm like, but this program don't calculate out to over $100,000 per person. So what exactly? I don't understand where this math is mathing from. And so I started looking to see if I could figure it out. And everywhere I see this same, $1 billion program through Fulton Bank, but the Fulton Bank program cannot calculate to 100. It can't. It cannot. The math does not math. Period.
So yeah, again, what I'm loving about this is that my bad. Why is Belay calling me? Now I'm scared. What time is it? It's not 1 o'clock yet.
It's not 1 o'clock yet.
I'm like, what? My heart just skipped. Like, I can't take it. Why is Belay calling me? I'm just trying to finish the show.
They need to log in.
They might. Oh, okay. So I'm just saying, right? The math don't math. And everywhere you look, like even that document that you pulled up where it's, this information from Influence Watch. And it says that, in that document, it says that they've helped 11,000 people secure homes. 11,000 people. Where? Where are those 11,000 people? Right? Because on the other document, it says 5,700. And you bragging about okay. And help to secure over $1 billion in residential mortgages for 11,000 people. I don't even know if that maths. Because you're talking about poor people, supposedly. So you're telling me you pulled 11,000 people who don't really have money into a position where they were able to do like it. The math does not math. And when you click on the link that they give you to confirm that information, it takes you to Operation Hope. It don't take you to like some document that confirms here, you know, here's how we did it with the bank, and here's the bank, and here's the like it doesn't do it.
Yeah, this is fast. Yeah, so I admit I got stuck at the point of the white banks,
Oh,
that the
that
business
too.
model is to just bring black to provide loans to black people who will then go into debt. And so the ultimate money makers are Bryant and then the banks,
Right.
because the black people who will get the loans will go into debt to buy homes whose properties are likely to either appreciate very slowly, if at all, or likely to even depreciate.
Mhm.
So I just but what you're raising here is even better. I mean, this is where's the money at?
Right. And there are people who are complaining because he gives these things called dignity loans. And, you know, people end up in a debt that they cannot repay because the mortgage loan that he got them qualified for is like it's literally the same problem that happened back in 2008, which he blatantly dismissed when Erica brought it up to him in this conversation. So, you know, it just, you know, I did all of this because I was so incensed by the way he handled himself throughout the duration of that interview. But also there was so much that he said, which was blatantly false, untrue, could be counted very easily by a simple Google search. Like the man is a charlatan. And people just need to stop listening to him, period.
For my concluding 2 cents, in addition to just saying thank you very much, Renee and Geechee, is that the reverberations of his inaccuracies go far beyond even his recognition or his individual celebrity. That he does influence Breakfast Clubs, Roland Martin, Earn Your Leisure, and a cascading, you know, array of outlets who create this echo chamber of financial literacy madness that impacts particularly black audiences in such a negative way. So as wrong as we've shown him to be here, that just continues to reverberate into the community. So again, that's one reason why, you know, I'm very excited that the Brokish did this. So again, salute to them.
Maybe we can get them to do a combo with us on Patreon so we could talk about, because I'm going to send them my spreadsheet.
I will ask.
Their next part is going to be a thing. So
I will ask immediately because there's more. We're not, there's more to get from this.
More. Yeah, there's more.
I want to go find them 700 houses he got. He got 700 homes.
Right.
He says he's encouraging you not to rent. He has 700 homes and he's encouraged you not to rent. And he said
he's not renting those homes.
I mean, he's encouraging people not to rent, so I don't even know which one is which. He says,
right. Don't be a renter, own homes, but then who you going to put in them homes, right? Yeah,
right, because all his homes are for rent. Exactly. It's absurd. So just an FYI, he is part of that 44% of people who live in a home that he owns, right? He is part of the 44% because all them 700 homes are being counted as black owned. FYI. It's wild, but let's not get in trouble. It's 12:58. We can continue this. We'll figure it out.
Listen, good people, thank you very much. Everybody on your way out, like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon, and click on over to Warrior Class, which is on its way. They got all the credentials. They logging in now. So quick stretch, hydrate. We'll see you over there. Peace, only if you're willing to fight for it. Like Fred Hampton used to say, and we'll catch you next time back here next week for more Saturday with Renee.